in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 as well. He played Kraglin. He's also been as Kirk Gleason, Swanman and Mick in the Gilmore Girls. And also, if you go online, there's a web series you can find him in called PG Porn. Please get up for the brilliant Mr. Sean Gunn!
Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here. I can't see any of you. For all I know, there's only like 4 of you out there.
Oh, there's a lot more than 4.
No, I know.
So thank you very much for joining us today, Sean, and thank you for taking time to come and see us all here in Birmingham.
Thanks for having me. I love it here.
Now, one of the things that people may not know about Guardians 1 and 2 was that you actually did the motion capture reference for Rocket as well as Kraglin.
That's right. Yeah, I've done now between both Guardians movies and the 2 Infinity War movies, I've now done 4 movies as Rocket on set. So what I do is I literally play the role on set. So the main functions of that job are that I work with the other actors when we shoot those scenes, so that they're not talking to a blank space or a tennis ball. That we're actually, having a communication with another actor, and then from there the visual effects team will use my movements, my facial expressions, and other things that I do physically as a first draft when they're animating the character. Sometimes they make changes to it along the way, but I provide the original reference.
And so for you then, what's it like when you first got to see all the first impressions of Rocket back?
It was wild because we really didn't even know what the process was going to be when we shot the first movie. So, I had no idea what it would look like. I know that my brother James was really concerned with how realistic Rocket would end up looking in the movies. That it's not easy to make a CGI character look like a real raccoon who's actually speaking. To just make it not look cartoonish or foolish. Raccoons' mouths don't really move like that, so it was a very tricky thing from day one. I think he knew going in that from a special effects point of view, making Rocket look realistic was going to be the toughest job of the whole film. So I think that's why he wanted an actor who he knew and trusted to kind of help that process along as much as possible.
And it kind of must pulling double duty on a film like that, especially in Guardians 2, where where the amount of Kraglin was ranked up as well. Mm-hmm. How tough was that on you mentally and physically?
It was a lot of work. It was playing 2 characters in one scene, which I had to do in a few scenes, is tricky. It's the trickiest thing I've done in my career. So I just had to be super prepared, super focused, take good care of myself, all the things that an actor has to do to be ready. But it was a hell of a lot of fun.
And you say tricky there, considering the amount of things you had to do as Kirk in the Gilmore Girls, that must really kind of put a real big emphasis on how tricky it actually was.
Yeah, that's true. I think I've made a career where I've been able to humiliate myself a great deal on camera, and any of you Gilmore Girl fans out there know that you certainly have seen it firsthand.
And for you, what was it like kind of working with your brother James? Because I know certainly with my brother, we have a kind of shorthand and we kind of have a connection where we can do things and say things without people realizing what it is. Did you kind of have to get that in the film when you're working with him? Was there kind of that established shorthand there?
Yeah, my brother and I had been working together since we were kids in one capacity or another. I think I starred in the first movie he ever made, when I was 4 and he was however old. So it's we know how to talk to one another on set, and I actually, it's even though yes we're brothers, there's kind of no one that it's easier for me to work with than him, just because I know I have a pretty good feel for when he's getting what he wants or when he's not getting what he wants, and if he's not getting what he wants, then we can usually talk it out pretty quickly and get on the same page. So yeah, he's a great director, so it makes it easy.
And he's got a credible taste in music. Now, when you got to hear that playlist growing up, did you kind of know what that taste in music was like? And did you influence him with any music of your own when you were making the movies?
Well, I mean, he chose all the songs himself, but I think that my brothers and I, particularly James and my brother Brian and myself, are really we're really music fanatics. So I think over the years, even though I learned more from him because he's the older brother, so I got a lot of my musical taste from him. But I also think that over the years, when we find something really cool that the others don't know, we try to share it as soon as possible.
That must be really cool.
Yeah.
Especially, and for you, during the film, what would you say, other than doing Rocket, was the toughest process part that you had?
Yeah. Really, in some ways, the physical aspects of Rocket are the hardest parts of the job, because it is quite physically demanding to beat down. I am essentially in a crouch position, and in a lot of scenes, I'm just trying to get my eyes to where Rocket's eyes are. So in a lot of scenes, it takes some strange contortion to do that, and I definitely end up feeling it in my ankles and in my feet and my back and all that kind of stuff. So as I get older, I think that's been in some ways the most challenging part of it, but it's all stuff that I welcome, and it reminds me that being an actor is a physical job, you know?
And were you surprised after the first film how massive it grew? It was seen by many as one of the best Marvel movies of that time.
I was definitely surprised that the movie was as huge as it was. But I was not terribly surprised that it was a success. I really thought going in, I know a lot of people were like, wow, this movie could really bomb. And I didn't feel that way. By the time we had shot the movie, I knew how good it was. We could tell we were making something special on set. And I could also see that Marvel and Disney were happy with what we were doing and were really enthusiastic about. I remember seeing some of the people who did merchandising and were making toys, and just how enthusiastic they were about trying to introduce these new characters to a young audience, and knowing we've got a real chance here to make something really special. And I think we did. I'm more pleased with the actual quality of the film than I am with the numbers of how well it did, but it's always great to find an audience when you make something you're proud of.
And what was it like going into a toy store and then being able to see not just a Kraglin action figure, but a Rocket action figure?
Well, we need more Kraglin action figures, I think. But it's cool to see those. That was a trip for the first movie to be on set and be working on those scenes, and then all of a sudden, like the following Christmas, going into toy stores and seeing all these characters on the shelves was. It reminded me of being a kid. It was pretty cool.
And then at Christmas, did you all open James's presents? And they're like from him, and they'd be like, "Oh, there's an action figure from a brother, and another one, and another one."
Yeah, I think his house was pretty lousy with action figures for a while.
And we're going to open the question out to the ladies and gentlemen in the audience. If you have a question, stick your hand up, and I will come round to you. And they're going to go. We can start off straight away with an aptly dressed young fellow at the front. Hello, Dr. Strange. And what would you like to ask?
My question is, do you have any favorite lines from either of the Guardians films that were cut and didn't make the final film?
Anything, my favorite line that was cut is actually on the, there's a special features reel or something, it's on YouTube, from the second movie where right after Kraglin gives the Zune to Quill, he's explaining some of the songs on it, and they're just sort of talking about the songs on there that he likes, and he mentions that chick Alice Cooper, and and I like that little scene. I think it's fun. Most of the scenes we shot are in the movie. We don't. There's not a lot of fat in those two Guardians movies. There's not a whole lot's been cut.
A young lady down the front.
What was your favourite scene to work on, like Gilmore Girls or Guardians of the Galaxy?
Oh gosh, I'm very fortunate that I've been able to work on two great franchises in both Gilmore Girls and Guardians because they have such great writing. And when you're an actor, it's like great writing makes up for everything else. You know, what was more fun? I don't know. I mean, they're so different, and I was so different, you know, when I was shooting one and shooting the other. I don't know how I would choose one or the other. I certainly logged a lot more hours playing Kirk, I can tell you that.
And we're in the middle here.
Do you know if there's any more plans to make any more PG porn?
Oh, goodness. I appreciate the shout out, but I don't think, I think that once, even though it is PG, very clean, I think once we started working with Disney, I think those days are probably over.
Another question here.
Okay, out of all Kirk's random jobs, which was your favourite to do?
Let's see. On Gilmore Girls, I think a lot of my favorite scenes are scenes where Kirk is not working, like where he's just doing something with Luke in the diner and they're having an exchange. Of the jobs, I really liked being the announcer of the hockey game, just because I thought that script was really funny and I got to sit down all day at work, which was nice.
And a question here in the middle.
With doing all the OCAP stuff for Rocket, for both movies and Avengers, what has been the most awkward scene to film like that?
You know, the toughest scene, you know, if it was in the Avengers movies, I wouldn't be able to say what it was anyway, because I can't talk about any of that. But I will say the toughest single scene I've had to shoot as Rocket is the montage in the second movie where Yondu and Rocket are in the cell and they're trying to get Baby Groot to keep bringing, and he brings the desk and he brings the what does he bring, a thumb or the toe and all that stuff. That scene was very tedious to shoot because first of all, both Kraglin and Rocket are in that scene, but also just how it was shot, it just took a lot of tedious work. But I think it pays off. I love the sequence.
And we have a question here on this side.
What was the funniest moment on set, whether it's on Guardians of the Galaxy 1 or 2?
The funniest moment? I think, you know, the scene that ends up with the Jackson Pollock line from the first movie, which I can't believe made it into the final film because I thought it was very pretty risque for the movie. But I don't know. There's a lot of scenes that I remember sort of Chris and my brother riffing on lines at the end of a scene that were really, really fun to shoot. And that happens a lot in both movies.
And a question for a young man here.
In Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we see Kraglin try his hand at Yondu's arrow. Mm-hmm. Do you think he'll be able to master it?
Gosh, I hope he's working on it. I think that if Kraglin can master that, I think if he can master that arrow, he'll be able to have a lot more fun battling bad guys moving forward, but just as an audience member, we'll have to wait and see how he does with that.
A question from a young person here as well.
If you could add anything into the first movie, like a scene, what would you add?
Oh gosh, I like the movies as they are. You know, everything that's cut, it's cut for a reason, and you know, everything that's there is there for a reason. So I don't try to think about too much about what I would do. I will say that the scenes that were cut, I liked doing them. Yeah, I don't know. I try not to think about what's not in the movie too much.
We have a question here.
How much fun did you have shooting the Marvel class photo?
Oh, that was a blast. That was a blast. I was very honored to be asked to be a part of that. there's so many legends up there, both from the the performance side and the production side. It was great company, and it's something I will surely remember for the rest of my career.
I have a question for one person here.
What's your favourite Marvel superhero?
Rocket, Raccoon. Who else would it be? Who's yours?
I like Spider-Man.
I like Spider-Man too. Unfortunately, Tom Holland is such a pompous. He thinks he's so great. He's so hard to get along with. For anyone who doesn't understand sarcasm, there it is, because Tom's about the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet.
I have a question from a lady here.
Hello, I also have two brothers and we fight quite regularly. Do you and your brothers ever still fight now? And have you ever got in sort of like embarrassing fights on set or injured each other quite violently? Any sort of scars and stuff you want to tell us about?
No physical fights. We're too wimpy in my family for that. We have to have wars of words and ideas. I come from a family, my extended family is a lot of attorneys, so I think we're trying to argue one another down and not use our fists, fortunately. I don't know how well I do. But, oddly enough, from being from a large family, there's 6 of us, 5 boys. We're very, very non-competitive with one another. And we don't really fight too much, which is a blessing.
And a question for this person here.
What scene would you say was the most difficult to shoot as Rocket Raccoon?
Oh, I was saying that before. The most difficult scene to shoot as Rocket was the montage scene where Baby Groot's bringing all the stuff. Just because it was tedious. And then I also have it can also be very tricky. Anytime that I'm shooting as Rocket, where I'm sitting in a spaceship, is hard because if I'm sitting. If this chair is the chair of the ship and I'm sitting down like this, that's way too tall for Rocket. That's where he would be if he was standing on the ship. So in order to get to the Rocket height, I have to do some pretty crazy contorting that is hard on my back. And when we do it all day long, I really, really feel it. So I don't know. Hopefully we won't have too many more cockpit scenes, but.
What was it like working with Mikey Wooker?
Well,
Mikey Wooker, the actor.
Which guy is that?
The guy, the little guy, Mikey Wooker.
Oh, Rooker. Yeah, Rooker. He's a pretty forgettable actor, for one thing. I don't know if you've.
He does forget a lot of things, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, forgetful actor as well. Yeah, no. Maybe.
Oh my God, you were an awesome Rocket. He was crawling around all day long. You were amazing. I don't know how you did it. You're a genius. This man is a genius.
Everywhere I go, he's there.
I'm everywhere. I got to make sure he's okay. His family, they never really they didn't like the cuffs to fit. They didn't like fighting. So I'm here to make sure that if anyone needs to fight Sean, I'm his man. So I jump in front of Sean any day.
I like that.
Yeah. Because I much prefer to argue that way.
Well, you're certainly not going to win a battle of wits, Rooker.
I don't know. My battle of wits is to shut off your brain.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, that is all the time we have, ladies and gentlemen. Please give it up for the brilliant Mr. Sean Gunn.
Thank you, everybody. It's been great. I really appreciate being here. Thank you.
And Sean will be back with us tomorrow, and also he'll be signing